Section 1 of The Lord of Death and the Queen of Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Jennifer Wigginton. The Lord of Death and the Queen of Life by Homer Eon Flint. Part 1, The Discovery. Chapter 1, The Sky Cube. The doctor, who was easily the most musical of the four men, sang in a cheerful baritone. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. The geologist, who had held down the lower end of a quartet in his university days, growled an accompaniment under his breath as he blithely peeled the potatoes. Occasionally a high-pitched note or two came from the direction of the engineer. He could not spare much wind while clambering about the machinery, oil can in hand. The architect alone ignored the famous tune. "What I can't understand, Smith," he insisted, "is how you draw the electricity from the ether into this car without blasting us all to cinders." The engineer squinted through an oval glass shutter into one of the tunnels, through which the anti-gravitation current was pouring. "If you don't know any more about building than you do about machinery, Jackson," he grunted because of his squatting position, "I'd hate to live in one of your houses." The architect smiled grimly. "You're living in one of 'em right now, Smith," said he. "That is, if you call this car a house." Smith straightened up. He was an unimportant-looking man of medium height and build, and bearing a mild, good-humored expression. Nobody would ever look at him twice, and would ever guess that his skull concealed an unusually complete knowledge of electricity, mechanisms, and such practical matters. "I told you yesterday, Jackson," he said, "that the air surrounding the earth is chock full of electricity. And that the higher we go, the more juice," added the other, remembering. "As much as to say that it is the atmosphere, then, that protects the earth from the surrounding voltage." The engineer nodded. "Occasionally it breaks through, anyhow, in the form of lightning. Now, in order to control that current and prevent it from turning this machine, and us, into ashes, all we do is to pass the juice through a cylinder of highly compressed air fixed in this wall. By varying the pressure and dampness within the cylinder, we can regulate the flow." The builder nodded rapidly. "All right, but why doesn't the electricity affect the walls themselves? I thought they were made of steel." The engineer glanced through the dead light at the reddish disk of the earth, hazy and indistinct at a distance of 40 million miles. "It isn't steel, it's a non-magnetic alloy. Besides, there's a layer of crystalline sulfur between the alloy and the vacuum space." "The vacuum is what keeps out the cold, isn't it?" Jackson knew, but he asked in order to learn more. "Keeps out the sun's heat, too. The outer shell is pretty blamed hot on that side, just as hot as it is cold on the shady side." Smith seated himself beside a huge electrical machine, a rotary converter, which he next indicated with a jerk of his thumb. "But you don't want to forget that the juice outside is no use to us the way it is. We have to change it. It's neither positive nor negative, it's just neutral. So we separate it into two parts, and all we have to do, when we want to get away from the earth or any other magnetic sphere, is to aim a bunch of positive current at the corresponding pole of the planet, or negative current at the other pole, like poles repel, you know." "Sounds easy," commented Jackson. "Too easy." "Well, it isn't exactly as simple as all that. Takes a lot of apparatus, all told." And the engineer looked around the room, his glance resting fondly on his beloved machinery. The big room, 50 feet square, was almost filled with machines. Some reached nearly to the ceiling, the same distance above. In fact, the interior of the cube, as that form of sky car was known, had very little waste space. The living quarters of the four men who occupied it had to be fitted in wherever there happened to be room. The architect's own berth was sandwiched in between two huge dynamos. He was thinking hard. "I see now why you have such a lot of adjustments for those tunnels," meaning the 6 square tubes which opened into the ether through the 6 walls of the room. "You've got to point the juice pretty accurately." "I should say so." Smith led the way to a window, and the two shaded their eyes from the lights within while they gazed at the ashy glow of Mercury, toward which they were traveling. "I've got to adjust the current so as to point exactly toward his northern half." Smith might have added that a continual stream of repellent current was still directed toward the earth, and another toward the sun, away over to their right, both to prevent being drawn off their course. "And how fast are we going?" 4 or 5 times as fast as Mother Earth, between 80 and 90 miles per second. It's easy to get up speed out here, of course, where there's no air resistance." Another voice
Sample complete. Ready to continue?